And a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Lyceum night. So that means the focus is on spiritualism and the practices thereof. I don't quite know how to introduce these two gentlemen because I've got a feeling it's going to be a very, very lively night, full of fun. But I've got two wonderful gentlemen I've had great pleasure of seeing work and attending workshops with as well. So starting with, I don't know which one to introduce first. If we go alphabetically, Andy Ford. Andy is a resident in, I can see it and I've forgotten it, Salisbury.
That's the place.
Yes. So Andy has served many of the churches in the area, and I have seen Andy's trance work as well, and very impressed too by it. So Andy, a very good evening to you, sir.
Thank you, Laurie. Nice to see you, mate.
And then we have a gentleman who doesn't really need an introduction, but I will just in case you don't recognise him, because he's Sean now. He's obviously been hanging around in the fields out there in Newton Abbot, and some farmers grabbed him and shorn his head, finally. Mr. Ricky Whitemore. Ricky, good evening, sir.
I thought you were going to say when you're going to introduce everyone, it was going to be age before beauty. That's what I was expecting. But
well, that was actually in my mind, and I thought, yeah, I've got to be so careful here. Yeah, I just when my eyes go like that, that means Lawrence's brain is going about 50 to the dozen, thinking, what are the implications of what you're about to say?
You could do it by hair mass.
Yeah.
Well, if we'd done it a couple of weeks ago, Ricky would have won the hands down.
Yeah, would have, well, literally, it was down here, wasn't it?
It was flowing locks. Anyway.
Moving on.
I did warn you all, everybody, this is going to be a very long night. It is not for people of a nervous disposition. Please remove small children and tender animals from the vicinity.
And grandmothers.
Yeah, anybody. Gentlemen, good evening. It's so nice. Honestly, that few minutes before we went on there.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's a few minutes before we went on air. Absolutely lovely, really wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen who are listening and watching us out there tonight, the whole idea, energy, and the essence and the intent of this evening is we've got two fine, upstanding, both evidential platform mediums and altered states mediums. So if you have any questions, if you've got any stumbling blocks, you've got any sticking points in your development for either of these two schools of mediumship, please bring them forward to tonight, because, you know, we are denied still access in real time to some of our great teachers and mentors. None of those were available tonight, so we've ended up with these two. But I don't mean that. I don't mean that. I respect.
Yes, he does. He does.
He does. Scraping the bottom of the cider barrel, we say down here.
You know, we've gone through this time, and we are just slowly resurfacing now, and we've learned so much, and everybody has changed. This is one thing that I'm very, very aware of. Everybody has changed. You know, we keep saying get back to normal, but we can't, because we're not that person. We can't jump back 13, 14 months now to that person. We are the persons we are today. And I have noticed with the advent of the online side of spiritualism that trance has had this big resurgence of late, and also some really interesting ideas put forward and premises I'll be honest, I'd never heard of before, as in spiritual assessments via trance mediumship. Now, I find that fascinating because it really does link into the difference that I'm feeling, and I've seen displayed by other platform mediums, that some of the communications coming through now that I'm seeing in the churches and centres have that essence of evidence, but it very quickly progresses on to a spiritual guidance coming through for the sitter. And I think that's amazing. and actually not surprising when you think of it logically, because spirit are here to help us, and they are working in this new way. So, gents, what's your thoughts on there? You fight it out for who speaks first.
I'd say Age Before Beauty and go for Ricky, but there you go. But there you go. No, it seems I've got. Since I started, I'll say something then with Ricky. Obviously, a Hannah. I mean, the fact to me, I love spiritual assessments because not only can they be done in trance, they can be done obviously doing the mediumistic side, through that side, but through trance, they will not only touch on what I call the aspects of your spirituality, your pathway, but it may be aspects of your life as well that may need some form of help or guidance. And sometimes this is not only just influenced by the guides that will come through, it could be a member of the family. So if somebody's dad was the one that they went to when they were looking for guidance, then dad is likely to step forward, and dad is then likely to help and guide as well, with the additional support, obviously, of the spirit world. So, I think the fact is it's important at the moment that people, especially in this weird time, are getting what they need, really. So, Ricky, would you add to that, mate?
Yeah, I sort of I agree with that. I agree with what Andy says. Actually, I've got it on my website actually that I do sit-ins in trance if that's what people want. I find that going back in the day, we've got round this way we've got a medium called Brenda Sawyer, and she's now 90, 91, 92. She'll still work the platform. She's got the most amazing wealth of knowledge. Her husband Tom was I'm going to say psychic artist, spirit artist, etc. And from a sort of, ever since I first started seeing her about 30 years ago, when she was in our church and she did the philosophy on a Sunday, her whole demeanor changed. She would stand up. Because she's only about 5 foot. She would actually grow in height a little bit, and her eyes they would just glaze over, and it was almost like her eyes were black. So you could tell straight away she was being controlled. And whilst it's not trance, in a way it's a light form of trance. And the philosophy that came out was absolutely wonderful. It really was. Some of the stuff she came out with, really sort of thought-provoking, and in a way challenged everything, our thoughts on what the spirit world might be like, and the reason why, we're alive on this planet and we've got this fascination with the spirit world. So it was really sort of exciting times back then, seeing her. And not only that, but all the other mediums that were like her, of her sort of generations, would also do a similar thing. Then when we move forward to sort of the modern times, we sort of see I don't want to say a lack in quality, but certainly not a depth to the mediumship on both a mental or a physical level. That depth doesn't seem to be there as much now. And that's not a criticism of anyone or anything in particular. It's probably more down to the teaching. But I think we need to go back in a way and look at these mediums that we had in the past that really inspired us for whatever reason, to learn from them and really bring their depth of knowledge forward. Because one thing they seem to have then is a depth of knowledge of mediumship and a deeper connection, I feel, with their guides and helpers. And if we can do that, then I feel we're going to raise all our own standards, because we're never, doesn't matter how good we think we are, there's always room for improvement, and raise our own standards to then be able to help other people. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the medium, it is about that sitter and the reason why they come to a church, to a centre, for a reading or whatever. So I sort of believed in going back to come forward and actually move forward, if that makes sense.
Oh, hugely. And I agree. It still amazes me that we are more aware now of this link that we all have with everybody, because of all these same thoughts that keep rolling across this world. And I fully in agreement there with you, Ricky, and with you, Andy, as well, about, I am not decrying an evidential message by any means.
No,
They
not at all.
certainly have their place,
Not at
they
all.
certainly have their power, they certainly have their healing ability, not only for the sitter, but for the spirit giving it also. I do not decry that. But we are at a time where we need something more than just to hear somebody's here and they love you.
That's true.
Yes, absolutely, definitely.
I keep saying this, and I am not ashamed to say it. In 2019, I was seriously looking at my involvement with spiritualism, because it was what I had deemed and called, we were on the message go round. Everywhere, every night, every way, demonstration of mediumship, and with very, very little else. There were very little teachings, there were very little philosophy, there was very little underpinning knowledge. And it did, to me, and I'm entitled to my opinion, and I'm going to stick to it, so there. So it's my show, if you don't like it, go away. I don't mean that, Joe. It's the energy of these two, I'm going to blame them. But yeah, I do have a passion for philosophy. I absolutely adore philosophy. I have books from 1876 to 2012 on the subject of philosophy, and I love them all. And we had an amazing evening with Ewan Irvin from the Arthur Conan Doyle Centre, talking about the power of philosophy. Not only was that demonstrated in the talk and the content of the talk, but the whole night just meshed together in this so subtle way, but it worked as a very, very powerful evening. And to me, we are all in need. Everybody is in need. We're all coming out again like rabbits under the burrow, blinking our eyes in the daylight once more. And we're in need of guidance. We're in need of help. We're in need of assistance. Yes, that truth that life goes on, or life does not stop. It may change, but it never stops, is so beautiful. As a first step. Once you acknowledge that, once you get that cinching piece of evidence from a medium that is going to give you details or descriptions of somebody who you thought lost to you but are still existing, still living in a altered state, what does that mean to you? Because that's a process we're all going to go through. And this is what spirit, in my book, my understanding, that spirit saying, this carrot, and here you go, here's a bit of truth, and what are you going to do with it? And we did develop this preponderancy of just sitting back and waiting for the spirit world to startle us with even more evidence about somebody who passed over. And then next week, we'd want even better evidence that they pass over. And then the week after, they want even better still evidence of what they pass over. But the underlying message, the underlying truth, the underlying value to us as spirits here in this physical world was getting marred and lost in a lot of cases. It was just all about the message. So, yeah, no surprise to me that at this time, one of the branches of mediumship, which comes in many, many guises, is this trance, because you're getting that pure communication. You are getting that truth from one of the schools of thoughts in spirit to help us live this life, to walk this path gently.
I think
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Right, I would say the other thing. I would say that's it. We've got to go now. We've run out of time, have we? But I know you wouldn't expect me to be anything else to you, would you? Really, But the other thing is, mate. The other thing is, I'm going to say within the older states, and I know this also occurs when people are doing the other style of sittings as well. That the beauty of it, not only is the advice coming, but the sitter is now feeling the presence themselves of the loved one, and it's almost like it's making it so much more heartfelt. It really is touching their soul, their own spirit, with that feeling as well as what is being said.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, getting back to talking about developing mediums as well. And again, this is no respect to anyone out there that teaches mediumship. But I will say to any developing medium, forget about developing for clairvoyance. Forget about it. Sit for trance. Develop for trance. Sit in the energy. Keep sitting in the energy. All I ever did for years was I sat in the energy. And then one day, I'd never given a message before. And then one day, the medium didn't turn up. And I walked into the church. And the president of the church at the time said to me, right, medium hasn't turned up. Get up and do your demonstration. And because I was in like ripped jeans, scruffy old T-shirt, you know, I had short hair then, but it was all like that. and I got up.
Then, Vicky.
Yeah.
The normal.
Exactly. But I got up and I did it. And, you know, and if you develop yourself as a trance medium, or just by sitting in that wonderful energy, the spirit world, and let your guides and your inspirers lead you in the direction that you're meant to go in, rather than being told by someone, you're going to be a medium, you're going to be a healer, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. You know, let your guides teach you. And then you will, then if you just want to be a platform mental medium, and that's fine. But you'll have a real depth to it because you've learned by sitting in the energy.
Very true.
And the philosophy will come with it. Will just come with it. You don't know where it's, but it just comes with it. So you've already got that armory in your or that tool, the tools in your toolbox, really.
Yeah. No, very true. Mary Dixie points out here, and it tags in very nicely with what you just said. Not everyone is suitable for trance, and that is very true.
Yeah.
Not everyone is suitable to be an evidential medium. Not everyone is suitable to be a healer of one disposition, but they may be an excellent healer in another regard. But this is it. We need to find out, instead of going to workshops and things thinking, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. Actually find out for yourself what you can be.
I believe that Gordon Higginson, when he used to do his demonstrations, one of the things he used to say is he would go to somebody, he would say, oh, the spirit world are telling me they have an interest in you. Now go and find out why.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, you know, you're right. Not everyone is right for trance mediumship, but everyone can sit in the energy. Everyone can prepare for trance, even if it's not on their journey, not on their life path to do it. You can prepare for it, and that will still improve your mental mediumship a lot more than if you're looking at photographs and getting messages from that, or doing flower readings, which is all wonderful, don't get me wrong, it's all great fun and psychometry and all that sort of thing. But sitting in the energy of the spirit world will prepare you for everything. It will give a depth to your mediumship, and it'll also give a depth to your philosophy as well.
And while you're sitting, quite right with what Ricky says, you know, when you're sitting, not only, you know, sitting in your power to get to understand you as well, because that's very important to understand you and your own energy, your own spirit, but actually getting to a stage where you invite the guides into that energy and you talk to them.
Yeah.
You sit down and have a cup of coffee, a spiritual cup of coffee with them, and have a little natter, you know, and as Ricky said, get the guidance from them. What is that? How can I work with you? What do you suggest? You know, what do I want? What do you want? That sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget that your guides know what's best for you. And more importantly, because you've got this pre-contract agreement before you come to the earth plane, your guides and your gatekeeper know exactly what you're capable of and exactly how far you can take it. And I bet you that they will know that you can probably take your mediumship onto a lot bigger or higher level than you actually think you can do. Because at the end of the day, they've got faith in us.
That's why all the Laurie's guides are now bald.
Are you one of his guides, Andy?
I am, you notice, yeah, that's right, yeah.
From here,
that's what it does.
From where I am.
Yeah, that's what he does.
So you must be his higher self. If
I am, yeah. He never listens.
I know. I always said I know when it's going to be my time to go back home because all my guides will be busy reincarnating, going, quick, get out of here, he's coming. A word you use there, and it is a word that I've been looking at greatly, it's the word medium and mediumship and our conceptions, and it links in nicely as well about the trance medium. You know, people would be saying, oh, well, I can't do trance, because maybe their preconception is that somebody is going to sit there and go into that altered state and will be talking in a totally different voice. As you said about the example about your platform medium there, Ricky, the lady, where you could see and sense that change.
Yeah.
That is trance. But to me, you know, sometimes when you're talking with somebody and just the conversation flows and you just keep finding the right words to say,
Yeah.
and you're carrying on, to me, that is trance.
Well, you've got to remember, all mediumship is a level of altered states.
Yeah.
So, you know, you are always in an altered state. It's just where you are in that altered state is depending on where you're working, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the thing is, every message you get, you're not just at one level. You know, every message you give, if you're on the platform, you're working through many different levels, right down from the psychic, right up to the spiritual, and many levels within that level. So, yeah, so it's not a constant. It's not a constant. It's you know, it's always flowing. It's a fluid, but you're always going through many different levels all the time, from message to message as well.
Yeah, and you know, I think as we are again emerging and re-emerging here, I think I always don't like doing what I call going back to 1.0 with things, going back to the absolute baseline, because it's really good. Because as we progress and as our knowledge base expands, it is very easy to forget, you know, people who've just come into the movement or maybe dipped in, dipped out, whatever reason, are not as fully conversant as us. And it can make trying to relay information difficult, because we're working on that, you know, not in a big-headed way, but that the unconscious, I know it and I'm doing stuff, but the people around are thinking, what is he talking about? What's going on here? So this is why, as I say, this word mediumship, I do try and correct myself now. When I say about mediumship, I talk about evidential mediums or healing mediums or trance medium, you know, to try and do away with that generic term of medium, because in the great public eye, if you say the word medium, immediately you conjure up this image of somebody stood on a platform saying, I've got your mother here. But it's not, it's so much more.
I just want to say, reply to that just quickly, sorry. So today, my daughter, saw my daughter with 3 of her friends, and they're sort of all fascinated in it. And one of them said, well, you know, about the medium, what is the medium? And I said, well, personally with me, I'm not a medium. The medium is my soul, my spirit within. So when I work, I actually move into that energy and I allow the medium to take over, because if I didn't do that, I don't think I'd be able to do it. Because if I win a prize in a draw, in a raffle, I quite often deny that I've won it, because I don't want to get up in front of half a dozen people to get me prize.
Yeah. And it actually, you know, if you want to be pedantic, and I have been accused of this quite often. So
never.
I know. Who'd have thought, eh? Anyway, moving on. The actual word medium actually is the interface between 2 substances or states of being. But as I say, within our movement, and for people coming into our movement and people who are on the outside investigating our movement, you know, this word medium conjures up this fixed sort of image. And the one issue with that is if what they see does not translate to that image they've already created, the expectation is not met, and this is where the frustrations come in. We do have a question.
Oh.
And talk about peer pressure. Good evening, Jack, and good evening. Good evening, Tim. So, Andy.
Hello, Tim.
Andy, you are in the spotlight from the lovely
Oh, yeah, am I
Tim
really?
Allen. So he's saying, can I ask Andy a question, please? And in your opinion, what is the measure of quality?
Right.
It's written chance after.
I think he means trance. I think it's mostly one of these texty things, you know what I mean, where they change it.
Good old spell checker. It really does do things.
Yes. See, yeah. Good job. I'm psychic. I understand these things. I'm going to say, if we take on, I mean, if we take each one, then, you know, if you're talking about the measure of quality, then I think to start off with, I always say that the quality is definitely there to start off with when everybody can feel the presence of the spirit world. That's where it's got to start, because it's almost like, you know, the spirit world is so close with us all that actually, you know, everybody, and especially whoever the sitter is or the recipient, can actually feel the presence of that person there. The other thing is then, when you move on, if you're talking about trance, then actually I think, again, that when you've got the aspect of trance coming through, and it comes through in a way, as you were saying earlier, that what is being given is understood and is needed by the recipient, then that is the intelligence of the spirit world. Because they're not talking about something random, they're talking about something that means something to that person. And again, the same goes for when you've got the evidential, that when the actual person comes through, whether it's, you know, it's dad, whoever, then actually, you know, we've also got to be open to the evidence these days is going to be different, because you've got mums or grandmothers over there with piercings and, you know, love of their Apple phones and things like that. So the medium has got to be open to a new way of evidence that's coming, that actually then, I think, within the evidential, then leads into a beautiful story that the actual spirit want to tell, that may have memories, it may have things that touch the person's soul. But this then also, all of it leads into a message that is definitely something that is what they say, what they need. Sometimes not always what they want, but it's always uplifting. They are never left down or anything like that. They always left with that upliftment and feeling of support.
Very good. Yes, and I do agree. It's a very difficult word to try and quantify, quite frankly, from my pedantic little brain. The word quality, you know, it's what is the quality?
The other thing is, I was going to say is that, you know, some people say that, oh, the quality of trance is the fact of, oh, it must be better because it's deeper. Well, no, again, I think that it's a bit of a misconception. You know, it's a bit like, you know, the medium has to work at the right level with with their guide to achieve the right end to what they're trying to do. So the fact is that, you know, there are some that, yes, will go deeper, some might go lighter, but that's the right place for them. So I say the quality is in what happens there at that place.
Yeah, it's ability to be able to connect with the needs of the people that need it. You know, for sake of argument, when you're in the trance state, if someone asks you a question, and years ago, I can remember a question that was asked with a woman that was raised a Catholic, and she was very much now drawn down the spiritualist sort of route. That was her core belief, but in her mind, she could never get that peace because of her upbringing to go down the pathway that she wanted to go down. Her upbringing kept telling her, no, spiritualism is wrong, it's the devil's work, it's all that sort of thing, you shouldn't be able to do it. And in that case, it would be the ability to be able to give her the answer that she needs so that she can bring that peace into her life to be able to move forward. So if she asked that question, and this is where if she asked me now, I would hopefully give her an answer, but I wouldn't be sure. But answering in the trance state, you know, your guides, your helpers, they will know exactly what to give her to allow her to be able to move on. Because, you know, I also believe there would have been some form of rapport between my guides and her guides at that time as well, so that you get that greater depth of understanding of what she's going through to be able to help her to move on. So in that case, if you then started to rather talk about her situation specifically, you then actually go off on a tangent and talk about, say, for sake of argument, something that you would do in Hinduism, which isn't really relevant to her situation, and that's purely an example, then actually you've not reached that quality, because she'd be going away thinking, well, actually, I'm none the wiser. In fact, actually, I might be worse than what I was before I asked the question. So I think it's the ability to be able to meet the needs of those that need it.
Yeah, I mean, as Ricky said, we got to remember we're dealing with intelligence. That's what we're. They are alive. They've got this intelligence, and the fact is, often I find, especially when you're doing your transiting, that often the spirit world have actually answered their question ahead of them asking it, because they already know what it is. They're already one step ahead of all of us. So if you gave them the space and you gave them the opportunity, then they will do exactly what Ricky said. And obviously, not only will they give that answer that they're looking for, they will expand and give, even more, really. And I love the intelligence when it's shown in that way.
Yeah,
hugely. For me, with the quality, I've got a lovely example here at Poole the other week. We had a very good demonstration of evidential mediumship. There was a communication there of a mother to the daughter. Very good description, evidence of the personality and of the physical composition when she was on Earth. Received. One thing was said. She just went, "Oh, lemon meringue pie." This lady's face lit up, and you could feel Mum there. And it's as simple as that. And that turned from an evidential message into something more, something of a healing nature, something of, and as I said, for me, that is quality of mediumship, because it was unsullied by the medium's mind, and it was just that one thing, because it was Mum's speciality dish, and when we lose people, it's like, oh, we'll never get a cake made by Mum again. So to me, that's quality, because to anybody else thinking, but to that one person, that meant the world, the absolute world.
Yeah, my mother once said that she was on the platform once, and she had to come to this woman, and she said to this woman, "I've got your father here, and your father, all I've got for you is a colour blue." And she waited for the rest of the message. Nothing else happened. And she said to this woman, "I'm really sorry, but I've got to give you the colour blue. I'm not getting anything else. I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to move on to someone else." And she did. So she moved on to someone else. And afterwards, the woman came up to her and said that she'd had a conversation with her father before he had passed. And he said to her, "If there is really life after death, I will come back to you and I will give you the colour blue and absolutely nothing else." And that was it. So I suppose, in a way, getting back a little bit to what Tim's question, what's equality like? Well, in that case, she just gave the colour blue. But, in my early days of mediumship, when I was, not as experienced as I am now, would I at that point be thinking, right, I've given her the colour blue, actually, I've got to go and give her more. But to give her more would have diluted the message, even though the message was just one word. Yeah. So it's about knowing when to stop as well. That no, I've given what I need to give, and that's it. It's time to move on now.
Yeah. I think it's aspects in that I think you've mentioned the teaching before. It's the way that people are taught as well, because actually it's you've got this color blue in this in this energy of evidence, and when you look at it and interrogate it, you go, well, actually, there's nothing else in here. That's all I've got. And that's it, But then again, there are other times when you've got pieces of evidence and you feel into this evidence, and actually there's more to this. I can get more depth that will give even more to it. And it's actually getting people that are doing this to actually start to understand the energy aspect, to understand almost the manipulation of that, to actually have a good route round, to be nosy, to go for that depth, to look for the additional sort of little gems that will be within it that you can bring out for the person, Very
much so. Lovely comment here from Phil Shaw. Having been mentored by Gordon Higginson, Ursula Roberts, and taught trance with Ivy Northridge, he's passionate about teaching traditional values and discipline so that we can use the power developed through trance in evidential mediumship. Most of my personal readings are now geared to spiritual guidance in trance, and my guide will also give personal guidance via platform mediumship. It's just so interesting that we're hearing this coming in. You know, hand on my heart, in 2019, if somebody said about spiritual guidance or assessments, I would be thinking, what are you talking about? I have no idea. But now we're seeing this spontaneous outpouring of it. Lovely Tim Abbott, who's in the room today, saw his video from this morning, and part of that was about trance assessment. And I just thought, this is really wonderful, because this is what we need. This is what I once heard a medium say this, and I agree with it, although some people may disagree, and that's fine. It's a free world, and that's why we love it. You know, when you were at school, if you went home and you were being bullied or whatever, you had a really big problem, and you know your guardian or parent just said, "There, never mind, I love you." You know, why would they do that now when we're really struggling with things? You know, to get that message through is wonderful, but there has to be more.
Yeah,
there has to be depth. There has to be that. I always say our philosophies, our mediumship, our healing should be geared and enabled to helping every single body within the church or in the centre, wherever you carry out your crafts, to be able to walk out of that door and face the world that's outside and deal with it.
Well, when you think about it, spiritualism is the most, and I don't really see it as a religion, but spiritualism is the most, for me, it's the most beautiful ideology that there is. You know, the fact that my sister died and we weren't talking when she died, and I've always had a lot of guilt over that. But the fact that she's in the spirit world and I can get a message from her and communicate with her, and I can heal the process that we have between us from both sides of life. You know, there's a lot of beauty within that. And what we've got to do, or what we have to do as mediums or spiritualists, or however we perceive ourselves, is to be able to get that beauty out in the mainstream and get away from I had a delivery chap turn up to me the other day, and I had something that I'd ordered for Newton Abbot Spiritualist Church delivered to me here in my home, and he said, "Oh, we've all had a £10 bet in the office." And I said, "What about?" He said, "We've all had a bet that you know I'm coming." I said, and what did you bet? "Oh, I bet you knew I was going to be here, hence you're here, and you're not normally." And I just said to him, "It's pot luck, mate. You just lost your 10 quid. I wouldn't have a clue." And it's sort of getting away to the mainstream and getting away from this idea that we're sort of gypsies on the end of a pier, and actually get the beauty of our beliefs out there, that life is eternal and we will all see our loved ones and our animals again at some point.
Yeah.
And it's a natural gift, isn't it? A natural ability. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is natural. It's one of the most natural processes there is.
Got a little question, a question here from somebody watching on YouTube, which came through worryingly before we'd gone live. So
it's not police, is it?
No, yeah. I sincerely hope we weren't live on YouTube.
Oh, so do I.
I will go and check. I meditate. I can't see or hear much, but I feel that my chakras have changed. It feels as though they are bigger and that there are less of them. Interesting.
You know what? I used to sit in this circle years ago, and I sat in the same circle for 10 years, and we just meditated every week. We just sat in the energy, and within this circle, my teacher or my circle leader would go to the chap next to me, and he would be swimming with dolphins, and then he would come to the woman next to me, and she would be climbing mountains, and then the next one would be talking to Cleopatra, and then the next one was Cleopatra, and you know, we went all around like that. And then he would come to me and he would say, "What did you get then?" I went, "Well, nothing." He said, "You must got any?" No, I got absolutely nothing. Literally, I fell asleep and that was it. Nothing. And it went on like this for about 3 years. And I was listening to everyone else, thinking to myself, well, they're getting all this wonderful stuff. Why am I not getting anything? And anyway, then it got to a point where I started making it up. And he looked at me and he accepted it for a few weeks and he went on, but he knew. And in the end, he came to me and he asked me a question and I, gave an answer and he said, "Rubbish." He said, "For the last 3 weeks, you have told me the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my life." He said, "I might well have been in a Disney film. Now tell me, what have you had for the last 3 weeks?" I went, "Nothing." But the point I'm trying to make is that, first of all, never worry about what anyone else gets if you're sitting in circle. It's completely irrelevant. Spirit will work with you in a way that they will work in. So now I know that with me at that time, they were always working on my subconscious. I might not have visually seen anything, but I certainly felt emotions within that time. Sometimes I would be angry. Sometimes I would come back and I'd be quite lightheaded. Every time it could quite be a different emotion as I was sitting within that energy. But while you're in there, you get perceptions of what might be happening while you're actually sat within that energy. So you say you feel that your chakras has changed. Now, first of all, I would say keep it simple. Everything with this is simple. Try not to complicate it. I've heard mediums say, in fact, someone said the other day, some woman was getting a problem with her house. And someone said, "You've got to open and close your chakras and then the problem will go away." I mean, honestly, what a load of rubbish. But first of all, keep it very, very simple and realize that what's happening within there is that you yourself, you might not feel like you're getting anything, but you're getting so much on the subconscious that you don't know about, and that you're developing, you're learning and you're growing. And you've just at that time, you've just got to go with it. Go with it. But just remember that your guides and your helpers are just a mere thought away. And if you're worried about things like this, keep sending out the thoughts, keep asking them. You will get the answers back. You might get the answers back in a way that you're not going to expect, but keep asking because you're always in control there with it all. So I just go with it, just accept it for what it is, appreciate it for what it is. And just trust that your team, your spirit team, are doing what's best for you. Because when I look back now, actually thinking about it, if I had to mentally focus on stuff while I was in that meditation, I probably never would have stayed in that circle for as many years as I did. And it was 10 years that I was in there, all in all. So they worked with me in a way that was best for me, to get the most out of me, knowing that I'm quite limited in what I can do. Hope that makes sense anyway.
Yeah, it does. Thank you very much. It's funny, isn't it? Some of these teachings and thoughts that we hear in circles. I was once told after circle, you close your chakras down. And then one lady said, "Well, no, if you close your chakras down, you'll drop dead." I was just like, okay, carry on, everybody.
Yeah.
I'll do what I need. I'll do what I need.
Well, I mean, as Andy said just a minute ago, Andy said it's natural, and he's so right. It is the most natural thing, Mother Nature, it's the most natural thing there is. And so for something so natural and so beautiful, we have to keep it as simple as we possibly can and try not to overcomplicate it.
That's why our three do it all well.
You don't get any simpler than us, mate. You really don't. No, you really don't.
You got ooh and poor blimey.
That's right, yeah. The answer lies in the soil, But it is true. Right. I think the fact is, I think, if there are things, as Ricky says, that you want to know or accept, then put the intent out there. Then have no expectations. You can go in and sit and allow it to unfold in whatever way. And Ricky's quite right. The answers may not come at that stage. They may come when you're least expecting it from something. You read something that somebody says, it jumps out at you, but the answer will be brought to you. But again, it will be back to the answer you need, not possibly the one you want.
What you want, yeah, and that's a problem.
Yes. And again, we bring in that word expectation.
Yes.
Because I think sometimes
Yeah.
the initiate will have too great an expectations. And, we have this in our normal, everyday physical life. You go out for a meal and it wasn't as good as you thought it was going to be. So you come away and you're not going to say much good about that restaurant or whatever, because it hasn't made that level of our expectations. And quite often we see it when working in these esoteric fields. I'm going to sit in circle and next week I'm going to be out there and doing what he does on the platform, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't transpire. So then it's rubbish, it's not working, or the circle leader doesn't know what they're talking about. And it's sort of like, actually, just try another point of view.
But that's the trouble. That's the world we live in, isn't it? Is the instantaneous world, You add water and then you're an instant medium, and people don't want to actually put the effort and the years into it, It is a journey.
Huge.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? Our mediumship development group starts up in a few weeks' time. And
good to hear, Ricky.
And I said to, it's not me teaching it, it's Arisha, the vice president, and she's a wonderful medium herself.
And a great baker.
She's a fab baker. And I just went on there and I wrote this message. And basically, I said to the message is, right, if you're going to come to this circle, you're going to have to, first of all, you're going to have to join the church. Secondly, because it'll become a closed circle. Secondly, you're going to have to get involved in church activities. And you're going to have to really give and take, get in the flow of giving and taking. So it's not just about you. And if you're not prepared to buy into that philosophy, you're not welcome. And I actually put all that in there. And a couple of people messaged me and they said, that's really harsh. And I went, actually, it's not, because when you think about it, I'm not a medium because of me. I'm a medium because of what I can do for other people, what I can hopefully do for other people, the comfort that I can bring to other people, and the fact that we hold other people's lives in our hands, and that within that sometimes 4 or 5 minute message, you can make a person's life or you can break it. And so these days, as mediums, we don't often go as far as our predecessors did. We can't say, I'm a medium, I'm going to start developing. When you're a medium, that's actually when the hard work on the self-development actually really kicks in and continues, because we've got to continue to improve ourselves, to improve our mediumship, to be able to give the best for those that need it. Because if we don't, to me, it's a dereliction of duty.
Yeah. And this day and age, because of what it is, then, it goes, as Ricky says, you not only got to sit about or think about, obviously, the sitter and everything like that, you've actually got to see where the law sees you as well. You need to understand what the law says about what you do, because it has an opinion. I mean, even that, it has an opinion on trance, because under the law does not recognize what they call the third person, which is the spirit world. So the medium is always accountable for whatever is said and done within that session.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it does boil back to one of the basic disciplines of spiritualism, and that is about dedication. I do like Ricky's idea of turning all your circle attendees into slave labour, and out there knowing the law. Hats off to you, Ricky. You've done something I've often thought of and not dared to. So well done.
The first thing that'll happen when they walk in next week is I'll give them paintbrushes and garden clippers and things like that. Right, wax on, wax off.
But joking aside, dedication is so difficult. We are all of a similar generation, although Andy is older than the two of us combined. But
I look better on it.
Really? Try this side of the camera, love. But when we attended circles, when we had been invited into a closed circle, or not wanted to go into it, we were invited into a closed circle. I mean, we were all of a working age. Well, Ricky wouldn't know about this, but we were all working and out there with jobs. And you'd have a horrible day, and you get in, and it's November, and it's raining, and you've had a real, everybody has been at you all day, and you think, oh, the last thing I want to do is go to circle. An hour later, there you are in circle, because you had that discipline and that dedication that you were letting down the circle as a whole, because when you have a group of, say, 7 people who sit regularly together, you create that energy, and when one is absent, that is noticed on the others.
I went to Mexico to teach English for 6 months, and I remember going into my all right.
There's all these Mexicans going, "Arr."
I talk Devonian.
Jose.
But I went into my circle leader and I said, I'm going off to Mexico to teach English for 6 months. You should have seen his face. And I tell you what, he looked at me and he said, you will report to me, you will sit the exact time over there as we sit now, you will connect into our circle, and you will report every week what you've got. Now, with me, it's quite easy. I never got anything, but I did it, and I had to do it because it's all about discipline. Discipline. I feel really bad today. I might not want to do it, but actually, I've got to do it. I've got to try and do it. It's sometimes about the intent. Might not be able to do it, but it's about trying to do it.
Yeah,
I always remember that, as you said, I remember a story that Colin Fry said once, that obviously the circle was built for him, but there's one of the actual rules was basically the doors will be closed and locked at a certain stage.
Yeah.
If you're late, you're not getting in. One night he was late. He was banging on the doors and windows, but they wouldn't let him in. He said it was irrelevant. That was the look. You were late, mate. I'm sorry. It may be your circle, but the rules are there, and we are honouring the spirit world, so you ain't getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Question here from the lovely Sue Townsend: does trance mediumship function at a higher frequency vibration when channeling philosophy, etc., from spirit guides and inspirers?
Well, that's a good one. I say, I always say it. Trance is, to me, trance is what we call the state of where I can get my consciousness of awareness out of the way to allow whoever is right to come and work with me and to talk. I mean, I'm not going to say they're higher vibration or whatever, but the fact is, what I'm saying is that the right person is working with me to come through, to give what is necessary and what is required. So as I said, to me, it's the philosophy will be given by the correct person from the other side. And I don't like to say they're a higher or lower frequency. I think basically they are the right person for the right job that are working with me. We're all a team, and in a team, to me, we're all equal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talk about I do something called the 7 levels of consciousness, which talks about the 7 planes of the spirit world, and you say it well. We're going on. First of all, I want to talk about the lower astral plane, and then we want to go up and we talk about what is the God essence, the God energy, the God spirit, however you perceive it to be, and we're going down from up. But the reality is, and then we say, well, we're increasing our vibration to move up from level 4 to level 5. But actually, you know what? The spirit world is all around us, and all these levels are all around us. And however you perceive heaven to the spirit world, or heaven, if you perceive it to be heaven, we don't go to heaven. Heaven is all around us. So is it a higher frequency? You know what? I don't really know, but I will say, to me, it's purer. It's a purer communication. I feel, because you are within mental mediumship. Sometimes you say, like, you're giving a message and you're getting a no. Sometimes your mental mind will kick in and and you're then trying to battle your mental mind to be able to then get back to the mediumistic part of you to allow you to give you that message. Whereas when you've got trance, you haven't got that sort of thing that will, in a way, knock your confidence. So to me, it's a sort of a purer way of communicating, if that makes sense. I hope I've described that right.
I mean, there are levels, I mean, within science, of the vibrations that we go through that eventually get us to sleep. And mediumship and trance are within that vibrational field as you move through it, as you go to sleep. So again, the vibration, the frequency, if we call it frequency, then the frequency of us does change. If it goes to a different, whether you call it higher, doesn't mean it's better. It just means you're moving to that right vibration to do that piece of work that the spirit world want you to do at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, we are coming a little bit back into that field about expectations, because we as physical beings think the higher the better. You know, we have been brought up in a culture of heaven and not heaven.
Yeah.
You know, so we've always got this mental discipline. I think one of the best descriptions I ever heard was a wonderful mentor of mine, Molly Clay, and she was doing a trance demonstration, and somebody had asked her inspirer about the different levels in spirit, and his response, and it always stuck in my mind because it made perfect sense. He said, you know, you as material beings, you need to see like floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, floor 4. And he said, and you conceive that each floor you go up, you are getting higher and better and closer to the source. He said, but I stand here and I look around and all I see is beauty. The fella stood next to me only sees despair and misery, but we are on the same level.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I really get that. Yeah.
It's about different levels of that cider barrel again, isn't it, I think?
And how much you've drunk of it, I think.
Lovely Jamie Williamson. Gentlemen, do you think that the quality of philosophy and evidential mediumship is dependent on the medium's frame of reference and knowledge or not?
I'd say, personally, I say no. Because, you know, I think, you know, people used to say, oh, the spirit world can only use what's in your brain, in your awareness. Well, actually, I think that's sort of giving the spirit world not the credit for the intelligence they are. Because, you know, if you took the fact that within the blend of what we're doing, when they blend with us, and they are, in essence, we are having this conversation. And then, you know, can't we, in the physical, talk to people and talk to them and give them information that they don't know? We can take, you know, and same with the spirit world. They have got information that I don't know, but they can still give it to me that I can give to somebody else. Because as long as you've got that blend and you're in that right place with that spirit friend, if we call them that, then they can give you that through your senses, through whatever. They can give the influence of what they want to say. And it will be something great, possibly, that you have no knowledge about at all.
You know, the beautiful thing I love about our movement is there is no right or wrong in this, only what's right for you. And so there I'm going to disagree with Andy completely. Well, not completely, actually, but I'm going to disagree with Andy. And my point of this
is... You're going to post a different opinion.
Absolutely. And this is what it's all about. So, you know, I'm not going to say Andy's wrong, even though I know I'm right. No, joking aside, I can remember my guide saying to me once, I was getting in a bit of a rut, and I was a bit, in fact, you know, a little bit like we've been in the last sort of 12 months, you know, stuck in the home a lot. And I wasn't really doing much, wasn't really experiencing life. And a message came through to me clear as day. And he said, the more that you've got, the more you experience life, the more we've got to work with from our side of life, because we can use your experience to be able to bring through a communicator. And I've always believed, and again, this is my perception, and, you know, whether I'm right or wrong or not, time will tell. And I'm always open to change my perceptions, but I've always believed in my experience that there is a normally something that that I can relate to within either the communicator or the receiver of the message. There's normally something that we've got in there, a past experience that we've got that will link me with that person or me with that person. And I can remember once saying to someone, I'll never get someone that died in a rock climbing accident because I'm scared of heights. And then funny enough, the next day, a young man came through, died in a rock climbing accident. Because I'm thinking, well, how did that happen? But the common denominator was that he died in Morocco. I spent a lot of time in Morocco and I married a Moroccan girl. So that was a common denominator. So I do actually agree with what Andy said about that. But I also think sometimes from the spirit side of life, he might have been drawn to me because he can say, I can relate to Ricky because he spent time in Morocco. He knows what it was like when I spent my last days there. So I can then pass that message on to his loved one. Whereas on the other side of things as well, a soul might look at me and he might say, well, no, actually, I don't really relate to that medium, but I do relate to Andy because we've got a shared experience. So I'm going to give my message through Andy. So I think it is a double-edged sword. I think that, yes, Andy is completely right with the intelligence of spirit, but also from our duty, we've got to experience life to its maximum potential so that the more we experience life, the more spirit of God can work with us, is how I see it. Now you can say a load of rubbish.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I think there's value in what you've said. I can understand that, but I think the other thing is that I think also that on an energetic level, sometimes even within this sort of our world, there are people that really we meet and energetically for some apparent reason we just don't blend with them.
Yeah.
And I think the same goes. There are some. In the spirit world, there'll be it'll be on an energetic level. They go, yeah, I don't think energetically I could quite get across what I needed with them, but with them that will work. And I think energetically these things will need to be looked at as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, we don't know what's best for people, but the spirit world certainly do.
They do. Yeah, we will be brought the right people so that we can do the right job for the right person.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah, definitely.
Indeed, and also from a frame of reference for us in the physical world, if we only spoke one language, we could only really adequately communicate with people who also only speak that language, or understand it at least. If we spoke a variety of languages, it immediately opens up the school of people that we can interact and interrelate to. So on that part with the mediumship, the more open you are to ideas, I do know the phrasing, your toolbox. I was once advised by a medium to just keep flicking through magazines and looking at the pictures, to start storing that away at a later date that spirit will be able to use that bit like a filing cabinet. But also, things have come through in mediumship that I have no prior knowledge of. I have no understanding of. I have no equation to it. Yet I was able to relate it in a sufficiently good enough standard that the person understood it. So I think there's a big blend of things. I think sometimes we can overthink things. I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles to any either establish or initiate into evidential mediumship or trance mediumship. That overthinking things can actually sort of like pull us up a wee bit.
There was a story about Albert Best, who was the gentleman who was the Irishman that lived up in Glasgow. And Albert Best was not only known for being a superb medium, but he was also Georgie Best's uncle, interesting enough. And Albert once was doing a healing session, and this was witnessed. And they always say that, bless him, they said he had this Irish Glaswegian mixed to his accent because obviously the two of where he lived. And he said there was an Oriental lady that walked in for healing. His guide, while he was in trance, spoke to this lady in her own dialect.
Yeah.
And they said there is no way that he knew that dialect, So I think again, it's down to the intelligence, the spirit world, knowing that Albert would allow that to happen,
Yeah. It's a bit like that when I work in Cornwall.
That's because of the cider you drink, mate.
You got to get over the waft of pasties when you go down there.
Yeah, don't mention cream tea. For goodness sake. Oh my God.
Cream on first.
Oh, no.
And just to verify and validate what we've just been talking about there, Tim Abbott is saying he's doing a demonstration in the country of Iceland, and he has no knowledge of the Icelandic language, and the grandmother from the spirit side of life was showing me an item that she owned and gave Tim the Icelandic name for that item, which the client understood fully. So how beautiful is that?
Yeah, amazing.
Because
amazing.
People like Tim and yourselves, you've got to that stage where you just allow the spirit to talk.
Yeah.
Without trying to interpret it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I always use no restrictions.
Yeah. I always use a nice example to sort of like quantify that is if spirit held up a fish here, Ricky might say a cod, Andy might say a salmon, but at the end of the day, it's fish.
Yeah.
They held up a fish, despite your interpretation of that. And that one word might be that cinching piece of evidence, as it could be somebody's name or whatever. But, we do it. We try and interpret more. And it's just that fine balance between catching what is going through to allow it to flow, but without catching it to then start to dissect it and cross-examine it before we pass it on. There was a very good question. Are you gentlemen all right for time here?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because Ricky was
we
late.
can stay all night, can't we, Andy?
Oh, definitely. He looks worried now.
Listen, we've had our first workshop in 15 months here today, and it was an absolute joy to have people in, but I've just forgotten the clearing up you have to do afterwards. And now some idiot has put the service on at 11 o'clock in the morning, so it's got to be done now. But anyway, moving on. Rita, very good question. I love this. How do you recover and unwind post a trance session?
We back to Ricky's cider again, but but no, I can say I think when I'm doing trance or whether I'm doing my platform, my evidential mediumship, I'm always buzzing. I must say, this is just to me. I'm always buzzing. With energy when I'm coming out. It's like and I know that sometimes we've got a bit of a journey, probably in a car back. I will make sure, obviously, that whatever I'm doing, I'm nicely grounded before I get in my car. But I still could be buzzing. I could be buzzing, and it's interesting because when I get back in, the last thing I can, I cannot go and say, "Oh, I'm going to go to bed now." I literally have to sit down with a cup of tea and actually watch something very. Most probably, possibly a little bit of humor on the TV or something, just to allow the wind down of the mind. So, I'm not having anything greatly I have to concentrate on. It's just allowing me to wind myself down. And I need to give myself that space and that time. And often I need that space and that time on my own. I don't want people talking to me, asking questions. When I get home, it's almost like I want my little bubble. I just want to sit in it and just be in that energy and let myself just have that peace.
Yeah. There was a time for me after I'd done a trance den that I'd be absolutely buzzing. I'd have to go nightclubbing, literally because of that energy. But then one day a few years ago, I was doing a platform den up in Taunton. And I wasn't feeling very well. I was starting to come down with a cold, but I went up and did it, etc. And then the next day, I was doing a dem. I think I was over in Dorset way, and I was feeling even worse by that point. And so I went there. I dosed up with the Beechams. I did the dem. I drove home, etc. I went to bed, and then the next day I was doing a trance dem down in Newquay. And I woke up the next day and my throat was really sore, and I was feeling really ill. but it was a full house and I didn't want to let them down. So I dosed myself up again. I drove down there and I walked in and I saw Dennis, who used to run Yuki's church back then. And I just said to him, I said, look, Dennis, I said, my throat is so bad. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this tonight, but just to let you know, I will start it. And then if it doesn't work, we're going to have to refund everyone their money. So just to warn you. So I did. I went into trance, and not only did I manage to do the demonstration and complete the demonstration, but when I came out of the demonstration, all my cold, my sore throat, everything had completely gone. Literally, it was like it had never happened. And so now I find that when I'm doing a trance demonstration, the fact that I'm sat in the energy of the spirit world, when I first used to do it, and I first went into trance many, many years ago because my grandfather was a trance healer. And I can remember when I used to come out of it, I used to cry. And the reason why I would cry was because of the beauty of what you're sat in. It's just this most unbelievable peace. It's just amazing. And so now I find that when I'm doing a trance and when I'm sat in that energy, I find it incredibly healing. And so with me, when I come out, I'm just very relaxed now. In fact, sometimes a little bit too relaxed, etc. So I find now I don't really have to do much. What I will do is if I've got a long drive home, then obviously I might have a cup of coffee actually to make sure I'm not sleepy on the way back. But it's an incredible experience to be able to sit in the energy of the spirit world. And I would say to anyone out there, if anyone's doing a trance workshop, if Tim's doing a trance workshop, or Andy or myself or anyone, you get the opportunity just to experience it, even that once, then please experience it, because you will find it a wonderful experience.
You've got to remember that obviously that we're all individuals as well. So the fact is that the way we would possibly feel when we come out of trance all could be slightly different. So we're having to find out what works for us. But Ricky's quite right. The experience of sat in that energy with the spirit world, and you are sat with pure love. They are the one place that you're going to get this absolute unconditional love from and support. And to sit in that, it can touch your spirit, your heart, your emotions. It really is quite an experience, really. And then, of course, the shock is coming back to this world,
Yeah.
People.
All goes wrong.
Right, yeah. People.
Actually, yeah. I am actually really struggling with that at this time.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the luxury of the last 14 months of being able to put messages to one side from people and think, deal with that when I need to, or a comment, or is something a bit disparaging, just deleting it. And now actually I've got people in front of me and I've got to deal with it there and then, and I'm finding that really hard.
Yeah. You're getting somebody in to exercise the people.
Yeah.
Be gone, people, be gone.
A real life mute button, so I'm thinking of getting a taser.
Yes.
But anyway. Lovely comment here from Joan Thorne. I don't know if you know. Runs.
Oh, I know Joan. Yeah.
Yeah, she's an absolute sweetie. Runs High Spiritualist Church. And yeah, thank you, Joan, for sharing that. Bless your heart. Pleasure that we can be there and uplift you. Wonderful
That's what it's
comments.
all about.
Indeed.
That's what it's all about. If we can touch one person whenever we're doing something, then we've made a difference.
Legally, I think you need to rephrase that, though.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. Actually, the last time the judge said to me, "Don't do it again." So Tim, you're lovely and active tonight. Do you know what I did cross my mind to ask Tim, but he and Jack absolutely so wonderfully came up with the idea of last week's Zoom meeting as a financial support for the church, for which I'm ever indebted. And I thought, I can't ask the guy 2 weeks on the trot. Yet here he is. So that's absolutely wonderful. Do you guys think sitting in spiritual energy that Ricky speaks of can be addictive?
Oh, I think it is. I really do. I think, to me, that essence of, as Ricky said, touching on that pure love, that feeling is such a buzz. It is. it is a pure drug. It really is. It gives you that high, and to me, the excitement of talking to people that are wide ranging, that that are still alive. They may not be in this dimension or whatever you want to call it, but you're still talking to people that have had experiences, that are still having experiences, that have had amazing lives. And sometimes I think they're more interested in some of the living I've actually found. And the fact is, I sometimes have to apologize if I'm demonstrating. If I start laughing, I said, I do apologize. You've got to remember, this is the first time I've heard this as well, And I must admit, I do put out the thought when I demonstrate on my evidential stuff is, if it's possible, can you bring me some characters, please? Because there are people out there that have, in that world that have had such amazing lives, different lives. And I'm nosy. I want to find out about these people. Yeah. And I find that very much, like a drug. It really energizes, and it does uplift me, So yes.
Yeah, no, I do, and also the thing is that there's you've touched something magical that you want to let others know about, that is there for them, that's available for them. I mean, yeah, I do. I love being in that energy and in that trance state. I just find it completely. Sitting at home here in the silence, in the energy of the spirit world, I find it, for me, it's just stimulating. It is absolutely amazing. But I always get that. I grew up in a little village on the edge of Dartmoor, so nothing gives me greater pleasure than to, on Dartmoor, you can traipse on Dartmoor and never see anyone for like hours on end. And there's nothing I like being traipsing on Dartmoor and then sitting next to a river somewhere on Dartmoor where you've just got the sounds of nature there as well. So I find anything like that is addictive, and to me it's a similar energy, that sort of thing, similar energy. But even though that's beautiful, doesn't even begin to compare to sitting in the energy of the spirit world.
Yeah.
And again, it's that energy when you bring through the spirit world, and they join you and the person. It's almost like you're all three there joined together within that beautiful energy. And as we said, when they can feel their loved one as well, like having that spiritual cuddle, you can feel how the emotion, how much that means to somebody. It really is an upliftment that you can bring this experience for that person.
Indeed. Yeah, indeed. And it just evolves, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah.
I always remember my first sort of what I term as my true sort of spontaneous communication with the spirit world. And I became aware of somebody there, and I asked a question, and I got back an answer that did not come from my mindset. And I was just like, wow. And it just builds and grows from there, because it was my evidence that response did not generate from my mind. It was just there. It came, and I thought, oh my goodness, I am communicating. How awesome is this?
Yeah.
Lovely Pat Twig. Some nice questions coming in here tonight.
Hello, Pat.
Hello, Pat.
So Pat's asking, in trance, how does it feel as you? I love that one.
No, as me, as they say,
As you.
The only way I can explain it is that going into the trance, it's a bit like me moving myself to another room. So I'm totally aware of me. What I mean is so my consciousness is literally like gone into another room, allowing that room that I've just left for the spirit world to be able to influence. I am still in a way part of it, because obviously I'm still aware. So the energy, I'm part of obviously building and keeping the energy there, but the aim is not to be involved in the communication. Now, there are times, obviously, because I'm a nosy devil, that I want to go and have a look, but again, it's trying to build that, you have to build that sort of control where you go, no, I need to keep out of it and let them get on with it, and it may be something, as you quite rightly say, they may be actually saying something that actually in a way that's not what you would agree with, but that's what they would say. But it is, to me, it's a bit like that's how I feel, as if I've just moved in that way to another room. So I don't know how it feels to Ricky.
Well, when I first used to do it, I used to, I would always see a silhouette, and it was almost like I had stepped to one side, but it was almost like I could see my own silhouette from the inside. It was quite an odd experience, first of all, but it was always beautiful. And I could actually see that myself as a silhouette, oddly enough, from the inside. And I just sense this beautiful experience of peace. But now when I do it, I'm not really aware of anything now. I just go in, and when I come back, there's always a lightness. I feel a lightness there, and I just feel it's not, you have those experiences sometimes, and you just feel sort of pleasantly happy, and that's how I feel. I'm really peaceful. I'm really calm, and I just feel pleasantly happy. The world's a better place, and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah,
but I will say one thing, and Tim has just asked something quite interesting, just looking down there, if I can bring it out, because this is a really valid point, and this is something that I was going to say. Then if we all agree it can be addictive, can you sit in the company of spirit too much? We still have a physical life. And absolutely, there is that expression, too much of a good thing. And I really do believe that. And there are some times when I'm working, because with me, I'm all or nothing. I'm either doing it, hours a day for weeks on end, or I'm not doing anything at all. And sometimes you're in it constantly, because it is a responsibility. And sometimes think, do you know what? I just want to go down the pub, watch a football, and have a beer. And I'm not a big drinker. I don't drink much at all, hardly at all these days, literally once in a blue moon. But yeah, absolutely. We can never forget, as Tim says, we are spiritual beings living a physical lifestyle. And whilst we are here to help others, we've got to put our physical lifestyle first, because we've got to have that experience.
You're quite right. I think we can. It is addictive. It's so much, to me, it's so much more fun. And it's a bit like, oh yes, it uplifts me so much being in the presence of the spirit, to be able to work with the spirit world. And I know when I get to the stage when I'm doing that too much, is because the spirit world then come along and tell me off. Will you go out and get a life? Will you go out and experience? I get told off by them, because they're saying, "Oh, you're doing this too much," And I'm going, I've already got to, yes, go out, go out and have some of the earthly life as well.
That suits my mindset there very much. That yes, when you do get into these states, and I am not a trance me. I sat for trance. I used to get quite agitated that nothing was happening, to the point of physical manifestations were going on, and I could not get into what I deemed or understood as that trance state. And I just sat there with my guide. I went, why can't I get this trance? Why can't I do it? And he came back so quickly, because you're too nosy. And do you know what? That actually took everything away, because I just thought, yeah, it's true. Because the minute I feel them coming in, I'm like, what are you doing? What's going on? But going back to the question there with Tim and what you've just said, again, we're going back on that premise that understanding and knowledge that spirit is intelligence. So they're not actually going to let you sit too long. No. Would be my understanding of that. They would take you to a point of saying, okay, enough for today. And we've all experienced it, haven't we, as mediums, and just thought, it's like spirits deserted me suddenly. They're not here. I can't feel them. I can't sense them. What's going on? Maybe that is yet another tool or a manifestation of this thing of saying, whoa, bring your vibrations. You need to be in the earth, not of the earth at this time. So yeah,
and we do need to bring that balance in. You're quite right. You know, we do need the balance between actually living in the physical world, however much we don't want to at times, and the spirit world. And we have lessons and experiences that we have to have in the physical world.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we got to go out and do those.
And actually, it's those experiences that will actually improve our mediumship, because as we sort of discussed earlier, that every experience we go through gives us that opportunity to learn and to grow, and it gives us then more that the spirit can work with us with, because we've now got more experience of something. And the other thing as well is what I love about what we do is that sometimes as I said, I really believe we all learn from each other, and sometimes we meet someone, and I find this always happens when I'm really low, when I'm fed up, when I'm going to give it all up, and then I meet someone that is so amazing and so wonderful, but so humble with it, and you just listen to their story and you think, how on earth have you managed to get through that? You are so amazing. And for me, it's sort of that then rejuvenates me to be able to go and carry on. So I think that we can learn and get and rejuvenate from those that we are sat in front of as well at times, because I've met some amazing people through this, some people that have just left me like absolutely blown away by their strength and their courage and how they've managed to get through certain situations in their life, and yet here they are, they're still there, really.
Yeah, I mean, I get that from talking, as you said, when you talk to like-minded people, if we put it that way, because of you get that energetic buzz that starts to build, and it doesn't. I'm not being rude, but it doesn't quite happen with the Muggles, In my little Harry Potter world, I'm happy, you see, talking to these people. And the people in the white coats come and get me now and again, but it's all right. But it is, and I think I get, when I start talking about this sort of thing to people that are interested, you get that enthusiasm, that energy, and it does build, and it re-energizes your own batteries as well,
Very true. And I've said, and especially of this time, one of the consequences of all this isolation and segregation that's going on, we are all different. There's hundreds of different versions of us out there. We are mother, father, sister, brother, son, whatever, our relationship with all these different people. And they all have a version of us in that respect, in that understanding of mother, brother, sister, friend, enemy, doesn't matter what it is. But when we do resonate, when we do meet people on that spiritual side of us, it just brings in a whole new dimension. One of the things that I have learned, a really big lesson for me during this time, is the wonderful people that are out there that you can converse with about spiritual matters. And it just flows. It may not agree all the time, but you always agree to disagree, and that's fine. Some of them are in the room tonight. A quick mention here to the lovely Craig Morris, who's just joined us.
Evening, Craig.
Craig's just done 3 days at Poole.
And Billy.
No, it's just Craig. He left here at 7 o'clock and it's 8:30, so he's done Poole to Torquay in an hour and a half. So somebody work out his average spin. No,
well, that's not. That's pretty good going.
No, he didn't. It was a joke.
I was just about to say there's no problem because it was downhill.
I always thought it takes an hour and a half just to get out of Poole.
Ooh, harsh. But yeah, getting back to the topic there, this is where we have really missed our churches and centres, because no matter what level of development we peg ourselves at, when we talk in that spiritual energy and that spiritual understanding with people of like minds, it's just this whole new level. It's that added depth that we may sometimes miss with other people.
Yeah.
So the lovely Fiona Parry Dodd, and she's coming to me first, Ricky. So,
well, tell her, church tomorrow night, 6:30. Haven't seen her since we reopened.
Not that we're desperate to rebuild our congregation.
Yeah.
We're just going to fight over them now. So, meanwhile, back in Earth, do you believe, as I do, that spirit only take you at the pace and ability that you are ready for?
No, I don't. I think they take you at a pace and ability that they know you're capable of.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think he's quite right, because the fact is that, if we, I think they give us that nudge. It's a bit like a nice bit of carrot and stick to keep us moving forward, And I think the fact is that I put it out there. I want to break the boundaries. I want to push it even further. Which means that sometimes I want to. I want to be a bit like that child that's trying to learn to walk. That that they pull themselves up. They might fall on their bum a couple of times, but they pull themselves up again. And I feel as if that's what I want to do. I want to push it so that I can keep the expansion of my spiritual understandings, what I can do. Always going forward in that. We're always discovering new things, So I quite agree. I think, that it's a bit like, for me, they need to push me to that edge for me to keep going, to really expand and allow me to have those experiences. But perhaps we're talking about individuals. Perhaps that wouldn't work with somebody else. They have to do it in different ways depending on what our needs are and what's best for us.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I've known Fiona for many years now, and in the time that I've known Fiona, I've seen Fiona really grow and really come within herself and really blossom. It's been really beautiful to see, and I've been able to look at Fiona and know that she was capable of a lot more than what she initially probably thought she was capable of herself. And now she believes it in herself, and she does some wonderful, she's got some wonderful gifts there, and she's a wonderful medium herself. And I've been able to see that, and spirit can also see that as well. And I think sometimes we might think we're capable of going so far, but then spirit will look at us and think, actually, you know what? No, they can go a lot further than that. So spirit will be able to work with that, and they know more about us than we know about ourselves. So they will work with us in the way that's best for us to be able to take us as far as we possibly can.
Brilliant answers. I love it when we can put things in a tangible, understandable way. And Andy's allegory there about a toddler standing up, falling on the bum, standing up again. Yeah, love that.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely, definitely.
You hear things sometimes, I'm not quite sure, but when you get it put like that, you understand it, you comprehend it, and you can go forward. Going back to a topic earlier on, are you gents all right for time?
Yeah, we're fine. Yep.
It's got its own momentum tonight.
It's amazing. I've just about, hang on a minute, just 1 second, because I'm not saying we're being long, but I've just put up my Christmas lights.
For the backdrop, I think Laurie's got his Christmas tree up, so that's right.
Yeah, just remember you're being paid per show, not per hour. Okay. But going back to one of the topics earlier on, it's from Phil Shaw. It's the same for me, Andy, with philosophy in another room. But when my guide wants to give personal guidance to the recipient, he blends more with my personality, as he says, it's preferable that both of us work in a semi-conscious participation.
And why not? Again, it's the intelligence of the spirit world.
Yeah.
I mean, the spirit world are going, this is the best way for us to work to be able to achieve this for this person. And I think that's the thing. It's, one size doesn't fit all. We shouldn't be creating clones. What we should be doing is allowing the ability to that person to work in conjunction with the other world to find out how it's supposed to be done for them. and how they again, and they know what is best for whoever the recipient is, and how and what to get the information to them, so it gives them that experience on exactly what they need. Again,
And we have to be individual as well, because then we're all like Marmite, aren't we? Some people are drawn to different mediums for whatever reason that might be, and because of that we have to be individual. And whilst I'm not going to knock the SNU or anything like that, sometimes a lot of the SNU trained mediums always come out with the same stuff, and it's almost like you're indoctrinated into believing certain things. So they always speak about our pioneers and this and that, and I think we need to be more individual in our own way so that we can appeal to those that need it.
Yeah, I think it can go for any body or any organisation. It's always a double-edged sword, isn't it? I admire these organisations and bodies out there that instill standards into the way people present themselves when on a public platform, how they are and everything. And likewise, when you start telling people how to do things, because we've always been very much of an activist movement in spiritualism, because we've got that anchorage, we've got that understanding, and we get that empowerment to do stuff. So we naturally shrug and resist a bit. But there's so many questions coming in tonight. This is absolutely wonderful. I won't be hoovering the church tonight, everybody, so I think I'll be up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning.
You can, in the morning after you've done yours, you can pop down and do ours, because I was in there today and it needs a good whip round, I can tell you.
Well, actually, going back to an earlier conversation about your circle members, so yeah, tomorrow I'm going to get my congregation right. You run around with the hoover, you get the chairs out, and you carry on and do that. So that'd be lovely. So Tim Abbott there just said, mediumship is a very important part of our lives, but it is just a part of our lives. And again, do you know what? That one word balance can be applied to absolutely every discipline.
Absolutely, definitely.
Yeah.
It is.
If anything is out of balance, that's where errors and misunderstandings arise, whether it be in the etheric, the material, the spirit, the transcendental states. If there is an imbalance, the repercussions are felt as a whole. Sue Townsend, have you met otherworldly cosmic beings during trance?
I mean, personally, I haven't. I know other people who have, and I know that that from what I've been told, that it's been fascinating because of the evidence that they brought through themselves. But I've had no experience of it personally. I don't know if Ricky has.
No, I haven't. But there's a trance medium I know down in Cornwall, and do you know what? I'm embarrassed to say I can picture, and I've known her for years, but for the life of me I've forgotten it. I'm getting dreadful with names lately. But she basically, when she goes into trance, she actually channels the chap Richard, who committed suicide with the Manic Street Preachers, and he talks a lot about elementals and cosmic beings and things like that. Now, in that area of Cornwall, down near Camborne and all around the Lizard and Penzance and all around that, they're very much into that type of thing, and it goes down extremely well. I think when we're doing it in spiritualist churches and things like that, if we start talking about elementals and things like that, a lot of the congregation would say, well, what's he been smoking before he comes on? So I'm a great believer that as we said earlier, our guides work with us in a way that's best to help other people. Then it's the same with trance. The people that we work with was in the trance state. We work with those that are best able to serve the community that we are within. So because of that, I personally haven't, but I know people that have. And also we've got Totnes down the road here, and I know someone there that actually does channel cosmic beings and things like that. And I think also as well, it's to do with our nature, because I'm quite grounded, and I'm probably too grounded at times to be able to channel someone from, I think they call it the Palladians, I think. To channel something from that entity, whereas there's other people that are sort of not so grounded that would be perfect for channeling that type of thing. So I haven't done it myself, no, but I've seen other people do it, and I've experienced it, and it's interesting. It's not always my cup of tea, but it gets back to the thing that there is no right or wrong in this, and you know, someone could be channeling God themselves. I mean, God to me is a beautiful energy anyway, but someone could be channeling God or Jesus, and actually, as long as the message getting across and someone's being helped by it, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're channeling someone that was in the spirit or someone that lived on Mars, as far as I'm concerned. It's all about helping that person that needs to hear it for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I suppose also, you know, if I have to say that, you know, there's got to be other intelligent life. Now, that intelligent life may be in our universe or maybe in a different dimension. I don't know. It's not something, as I said, it isn't something I have ever really looked at, but I suppose there's got to be more intelligence out there. So that is quite possible. A bit like Ricky, I suppose my focus has always been on communication with our guides and our loved ones. And that's where my focus, and that's where I love to be. So that's where I work. So other people, as Ricky said, they work in different ways. Yeah. And again, as long as you're not harming anybody, but you know, people are getting what they need from it, then I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit like past life regression, really. I mean, I believe in.
Don't start past lives. Good grief.
Well, exactly. I mean, I believe in reincarnation, but I've never done regression because for me personally, I've got enough problems in this life without worrying about what problems I might have had because I was on the Titanic or something like that. You know, it's sort of, So I believe in it, but I've never experienced it.
Yeah, and actually, to be sort of like devil's advocate tonight, we have these, again, expectations. Funny how that word's coming up a lot tonight, just because it's my word du jour. But anyway, when you start talking about cosmic beings, you know, you are going to bring in a big division amongst people because you're going to get, oh yeah, the wackies are out and everything. Oh yeah, fine. Were they green? And, you're going to get all that. Yet we've got to actually understand and accept and acknowledge that in our work as mediums, when we are communicating with the spirit world, we are communicating across dimensions. So for the cosmic beings, it's a very open book. It's if we communicate with spirit who exists in a different dimension to us, that is an undeniable truth. We can then not further discount that further communication from other dimensions is possible. It is only our understanding and our preconceptions that will either allow or dismiss that from our thoughts.
Yeah, there's no
profound.
It was, yes. You need to have a light in a darkened room now, Laurie.
Oh, definitely. And I do love the way Ricky distanced himself by blaming on all the people from Devon who only speak to cosmic beings, and nobody from Cornwall would ever dare, would they?
That goes back to the scone issue as well, you know.
Oh, please don't bring the scone. Oh, goodness me.
I mean, at the end of the day, you know that Devon is God's own county, don't you? So.
So, Craig Morris is asking on behalf of Billy Cook down there. Some people say being spiritual is a way of life. To me, it's part of my life. What are your thoughts?
I think it's quite right. Yeah, so would I. Yeah, because I mean, I always say that being spiritual is part of me. It is a way of life for me. You know, it's, people sometimes say, oh, it's a religion. No, it's far bigger than that. You know, because of the aspect of my spiritual pathway is part of my life and part of my way forward. The spirit of me is in me, is part of me. You know, it's the part that a lot of people don't connect to. And I think, once you connected to it, then again, it's taking you forward in your life, and those experiences are what makes the spirit grow. From that point of view, it gives you, I suppose, that buzz. As I said, it's just not a way forward. It is an aspect, and I think sometimes that's an aspect that not everybody understands about us. If they meet us and don't understand our beliefs, can be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, you can be. We've all seen it, haven't we? When we've worked at certain places, that people will walk around draped in crystals and rainbow-coloured clothes and etc. and go, how spiritual am I? But the reality is that spirituality is part of us. It's who we are. And in my lifetime, I've been very lucky because I've met lots of people that I would describe as absolutely wonderful spiritual beings that will do anything to help anyone else, but actually they don't have any spiritual beliefs, or they might not believe in a god or something like that. So yeah, I think spirituality is who you are, but it's also what you do as well, and how you conduct yourself, and how you respect others and how you treat others. And so yeah, no, absolutely, I would definitely say that.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think some people say being spiritual is a way of life, but probably just a slight twist on that. Becoming spiritually is a way to a new aspect of your current life.
Yeah.
And because it does all interrelate, we do not exist in, and with the balance energy as well. We can't all sit there like that all day by the riverside balancing pebble. Well, we could give it a go, but we're not going to get very far. But we can encompass that as part of our life. We can say, like Ricky was saying earlier on today, sounds great. Going across Dartmoor with nobody around and sitting by a river, I would love that. I would absolutely love that. But I could not do that every day because I have the rigours of a physical life upon me, which I need to adhere to as well.
And I think the other thing is the connection that you have, when you are demonstrating that, you are connecting to the spirit world, you're connecting to your own spirit and the spirit of the people in the room as well, and it is that essence of that you cannot but help to get to know your own spirit, be understanding that is part of your life. It is who you are.
Yes.
I've got a question for you, Andy, if you don't mind. I was asked this question today by one of my daughter's friends, but I'll ask you to see what you think. Is your higher self and your spirit the same thing?
That's interesting, because I know that the teachings that say that it's supposed to be above you. You see, but I think it's just part of a connection within your spirit, your soul, that you can reach. It's all got to be part of the same thing, in my way of looking at it. Because if I can be in touch with my spirit, I can. There is knowledge and understanding within that spirit that I can go deeper into. People say that's the higher self. It is just part. To me, it's just an aspect of my soul. But that's the way I look at it. Because it's all connected.
Yeah, I sort of get that, but when she asked me, I must admit I had to stop and think about it first of all, because I'd never thought about that one. So it was quite interesting. I was like, let me think about this before I answer it. And yeah, I sort of said the same thing, really.
Yeah. Because sorry, Roy, you come.
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say it's when we can look within to find the answers to those questions, and often I think if we give it our spirit the space and the time, we can have internal guidance as much from our own spirit as we can from the spirits that have gone to the other world.
It would depend as well upon what our definition of the higher self is. Is the higher self an individual personality that as we perceive it, or is the higher self part of a bigger soul collective? And then the differential between our spirit and the higher self, we can actually quantify that then, because the higher self is this collective consciousness which may account for some of what we experience as past lives is not actually our life. It is part of our higher group collective consciousness that we are picking up memories from them.
Yes,
but we
possible.
are not doing reincarnation because
Laurie loves it so much. We'd be here for hours on it.
yeah, no, this time tomorrow night I'm sat here. The congregation's gone home because they couldn't get in. Yes. Question from Mark Cassidy. Good evening, gentlemen. You haven't loaded this question at all, have you, Mark?
No, not really.
Do you prefer the warmth and energy of a church to a Zoom meeting?
To be honest with you, the way, I mean, from the aspect of me working, it's still the same, because I'm blending with my friends from the other world, and the fact is that when you get a situation where even on Zoom the person is saying they can feel that energy, then that energy of that loved one, then I think that's great. Do I prefer in person? Yes, because I love a room full of people. I love it. To me, I am connecting to them most way in a different way, and I love the physical part of being with people. I also like the hugs as well, which we can't get on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm with Andy on that one. I prefer it, but the one thing that the pandemic has taught us is it's taught us. I mean, especially with people like me, I had no interest in computers. In fact, I got expelled from the computer group at school, etc., because I couldn't even switch the thing on, let alone do anything else.
Okay.
But what it's done is it's taught like old people like me, or should we say maturing people like me. It's done is it's taught us to that there is another way to get to people. I mean, I spoke to down our way. We've got Stacey Spark down our way. Now she's got her own page, Learning Tarot, and every week she's interviewing different people. So she's had Tim on, she's had Billy on. I know she had you on, Lawrence, isn't she?
Yeah,
and she only gets 7. Well, she had my mother on Wednesday, but she only gets 7 or 8 people there. And she was saying to me that, should I continue? I only get this amount of people. And I said to her, you've got to carry on, because you're reaching people that we can't reach. And the one thing about what's happened now with us being forced to do StreamYard and to do Zoom and things like that is we are getting to people that for whatever reason can't come into a church, can't come into the centre. I did a meditation for Torbay Mental Health Team on Monday lunchtime, and one of the ladies in there was in a wheelchair and she hasn't left her house in 8 months. If there was no sort of Zoom or anything like that, so she can connect with us and with spirit via this technology. So whilst I would prefer to be working in a church or a centre in front of people, I think it's vitally important that these sorts of evenings carry on when all restrictions are lifted and we can go out on the road again.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right, and it's been great. It's been a great experience, obviously, to work with people, in other countries, because obviously, your mediumship has to adapt because of the information coming through is could be slightly differently. But not only that, like yourself, where you're actually creating like the Zoom services and things like that. They're actually being experienced by countries that don't have churches. That within their country, they wouldn't have that experience. But now, because of this lockdown and this lovely access with their whatever technical aspect it is, this is being brought to them and they are being made part of it. They're having that experience. And, and that's been brilliant from that point of view,
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And they also say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I've learnt a few tricks recently.
We won't ask what they are, Ricky.
Just don't dangle a bone in front of me.
God's sake, don't say walkies.
That's right, yeah.
Do you know what? As probably the soon-to-be ex-president of Paul Christian Spiritualist Church, by the time I finish saying this, I have found it's challenging coming back into real life services in some places, because and actually Tim has written something here, and I think he's picking up on the same sort of energy here. So Tim is saying here, how do you guys think about the fact that over the last year there have been some mediums who have been very active, for example, through Zoom, and sadly there have been some mediums who have done nothing, and there will be some mediums who will find it very challenging when the churches reopen because they have been stagnant for a year. Now, do you know what? This is all these things come together. I have found, going back out into serving churches, of it sort of like the count has been reset to 2019. And because for my own personal growth and development, and I'm not being big-headed, and people that know me know I do not have an ego, but I'm not the Laurie that existed in December 2019. I'm the Laurie of May 2021. And this is being reflected also in our style of services here at Paul, that we haven't flipped back to the industry standard without being disrespectful. But, you know, we did have this industry standard of how a service is constructed. It's much more liberal, and people have heard me say this before, and again, we're all entitled to our own beliefs, our understandings. We had one of the most amazing services that I have been in for a very, very long time here at Paul. No disrespect to any other mediums that serve our church or anything, but it was the whole way that Spirit guided the service. The philosophy in the talk lasted for 1 hour service, 35 minutes. It was educational, it was inspiring, it was informative, it was engrossing, and it was engaging. We had 5 minutes of meditation, and then we had 20 minutes of messages. 3 out of the 4 were what we've been talking about earlier on, about the spiritual guidance for our lives. And I found that energy so invigorating, so different to the formulaic way that services were. Because, again, this is me personally, as the now ex-president. I've just had an email. So, bye, everybody. But yeah, and I get that, Tim. I really do get that. And I really hope I've picked up on that energy as well that you're talking about there. So... I just looking at that. I mean, I know Tim, and I greatly admire Tim for all that he's achieved within the spirit world. But I've been I don't like the way that the terminology in a way that has been like that, for the simple reason that I think it's all down to the individual. And you know, some people have carried the can and they've done a wonderful job promoting spirit throughout the lockdown. But there are some people in that time that's just needed to step back and take a break. Oh, yeah.
And I mean, you know, I got the virus last March, and then it took me months to get back on my feet. And then when I started getting back on my feet and I realized that I couldn't go on a 10-mile hike like I used to, I can barely walk to Tesco's and back, I just crashed mentally and got in a very deep, dark place. And I couldn't even face spirit or anything to do with spirit at that time, and I just needed a break. And I think it's all down to the individual. And I think where Tim is right, yes, some people will step back and they won't ever come back out again. But we've all learned a lot about ourselves in this time, and hopefully we've all grown from it. And I think those that are meant to be back out working again will slowly start to come out and start working in our churches and centres again. But I think that some people have just had to have that time out, really. Yeah. And I think Spirit will in some cases actually make them take that time out for whatever reason as well. So But I know some of the things. What did actually get me back going again was actually listening to some of lives like this. It sort of got me from being, I've had enough, I don't want anything to do with it anymore, to it sort of sparked something within, you know, and it made me think, actually, you know what, I've got to stop feeling sorry for myself, and actually I've got to start to pick myself up and start doing something again. So slowly but surely, I think, and hopefully, as you quite rightly said, I think I'm a different person to the one that went into lockdown last year.
Yeah. And I have not had the pleasure yet of meeting Tim in person, but certainly with our interactions, I feel very sure to say there is no intention there to cause upset or harm. It's just we can read one sentence, each of us, and come up with a different meaning to it. But yeah,
but it's quite true. You know,
Tim made me cry once, you know.
Oh, good old Tim.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you tell me how, just in case I need to?
Right, yeah.
It was about 20 years ago. Must have been about 20 years ago. And Tim was at Paignton Church at the time. And I was in Paignton Church, and there was me, and there was probably about 15 women. So it was just me, Tim, and about 15 women. And Tim did this meditation, and it was just so amazing. And it was so beautiful that when I come out, I bawled my eyes out. I couldn't stop crying, and none of the women were crying at all. They were all just sat there looking at me. I'm bawling my eyes out. And of course, Tim said, "It's all right. It's okay to cry. Let it out." He's going, "Let it out." But at the end of the day, through the guidance and through the teaching, I touched the essence of spirit, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to what was said, I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't do something for a while, then it's going to take them a little bit while, you know, they'll be slightly rusty like anything else. You know, it's a bit like going back. People haven't been to the gym for a while. When they go back in again, their muscles need a little bit of a workout. I know, that's it, yeah. So it will take some people a little bit more time to get back in there. And not everybody really links or loves technology anyway, and I accept that. I mean, for me, I've used the year and a bit for embracing something that I've never used to this extent. I've also, you know, used it to expand and opportunities for me to practice my own development as well. And that's where a lot of it I've been looking at this year, of looking at, you know, expanding my evidential, my trance, you know, doing different things from that point of view, being able to do, experiencing the thing of doing services and demonstrations online, which all brings a new aspect to me. It stretches me.
Yeah,
but that's me. And some people, it doesn't, you know, horses for courses. So, you know, so. Yeah.
And the advent of this online experience of spiritualism and all its aspects is this new frontier. And it is, you can either disregard it, put it to one side, or you can actually embrace it. I'll be perfectly honest, I would be quite happy with a cave in Wales with a really good internet connection. Yeah. And you know what? I'd be happy as Larry in there.
Yeah, I don't think the Welsh would like it, but there you go.
Yeah, they're Welsh, so...
oh dear.
You can fend off the next 6,000 comments. And moving swiftly to Brixham.
Brixham?
Yes.
It is Brixham. I never go to
Denham.
Brixham.
Laurie, not saying you've been on a long time, but I've made a lemon and coconut cake and 20 raspberry muffins. Rude.
That's right, yes. There are so many things I think I could say to that, but you'd never be on air again.
Well, as Jan's only 20 minutes from me, I've just nipped down and got them.
Oh, that's right, yes. But
Stephen Mega. Too many people skip the development of evidential mediumship and go straight to channeling aliens and ascended masters. If it comes through a proven evidential medium, it gives some validity. I'm so tired. When it's not through an evidential medium, then it's hard to accept. Interesting thought line there.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. It depends on what you're into, really. If you're into that sort of thing, then it's not. People are going to accept it. If you're not, I think it gets down to what we said earlier. You know, if I was to channel an alien or an ascended master in your spiritualist church, Lawrence? How are people going to take it? But if I do it in, say, Bude pagan society moot, they're going to accept it. They'll be like, oh, he's brilliant, he's wonderful, he's channeled whoever. So again, it's all down to the sort of the area that you're working in, really. I think, and the people that you appeal to.
I think I would need to judge it on what is said. That's how I would judge it. You know, you know, yeah, and that would be my yardstick for that. Yeah.
Serena, lovely Serena Schroeder. What can you say about feeling sick and not being able to move anymore during getting in a deeper trance? Sometimes it's very hard to come back. Serena has been on a few times before with us, and I believe from, I'm going to get the wrong country, and I'm going to get shouted at. This is the Welsh I've just upset, and I'm now just about to upset either Denmark or Sweden. I believe
both.
Sweden. Or both, yeah. And this, again, just as a sideline, is part of the importance and the wonderful outreach that this online experience is giving to people, that they are able to access information and ask questions and learn things where they may be denied churches or centres in their own countries. But back to the question. So, Serena, yes, I know Serena does work in the trance energy, and I also know she encounters a few issues. So here she's saying about she feels sick when she's going into this trance energy and then finding it harder to come back. Any thoughts or guidance on that?
Yeah, well, so I've experienced that myself, and what I find is it was when you're experiencing a new energy, that's when you tend to feel sick. So I've had it over the years where things change within as I'm working, and then you experience this new energy, and it can make you sick, and the feeling of being sick. And I've also had that experience where sometimes it will take a long time to come back. But one of the keys to doing trance is to make sure you relax into it and just to let go, but also to feel safe and secure as well within that environment, and also work as symbiotically as you can with your guides and helpers. I can remember my grandfather many years ago, he used to go into trance and his guide White Eagle would come through and talk, because he was a healer more than a medium, but his guide would talk. And he often said that, you know, when he was in trance, he felt he could never let go, and that he was still aware of everything that's going on around him. So I can remember many years after that, because I went through a period where within my trance I didn't feel anything. Then I went through a period of feeling sick like you did, and then I went through a period where I was quite aware. And I can remember Keith Hall popped in to I can't remember where I saw him now, it might even have been at Newton Church, but he popped in and I thought, I'll ask Keith. So I asked Keith about it, and yeah, he just said, you know, you just got to let go, and you just got to go with it and go with whatever it is, and don't put any expectations on anything. Just let it come naturally and just go with it. Sometimes when we're almost resisting it, we can get a feeling of sickness, but often it is about a change of energy. So I would say try and relax, try and just do it gently. And the other thing is, don't be hard on yourself. If you're coming out, sometimes it's a bit like when we said earlier about the meditating, you know, when someone's on a wonderful journey and you hear that they're climbing mountains and swimming with dolphins, and you're sort of like, well, I'm not really getting anything type thing. You know, sometimes we just got to go with it, relax into it, trust, and just go with what comes. And if you can relax into it, then I feel that you'll find it will become more natural process, and that feeling of sickness, I think, will go.
Yeah, I quite agree with Ricky. The other thing is, I mean, yeah, just give yourself that space and that time. Don't rush it.
Yeah.
You know, and coming back out of trance is a personal journey. It's down to the individual, what's right for them at that stage, how long it will take them to come back. Don't expect, last time I come back quicker, this time oh, I'm not coming back as quick. Allow that to unfold naturally. I mean, sometimes I get to the stage where I think, oh, I'm ready to now to come back and I can go back to normal. But my eyes just went open. They're glued shut. And so I was like, no, I need to give myself that little bit more time. Don't rush it, you know. And I think the other thing is that, you know, I always say that if we're experiencing something like this, especially going in and feeling sick, then we should take our time to actually, again, sit with our guides, discuss it tell them your experience in this.
Yeah.
You know, is there something you can do to help me with this? Because I'm feeling a bit sick, you know, that's the way it's affecting me, and I'd rather it not. And they will find ways to adjust it. But it's almost like, again, it's this communication, I think, with them. Let them know so that they can help you, so that you can get over this, you know, or you're not experiencing this, you know. It's teamwork again. Yeah.
Yeah, and also the final thing I would just say is perception as well, because there's no time in the spirit world, and a 5-minute demonstration of trance, 2-hour demonstration of trance can feel like 5 minutes. But sometimes our perception might be it's taken a long time to come back, but the reality is actually a very short space of time. But it's how we're perceiving it.
It's true. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, gents. Very quickly, I just need to a couple of comments there that cause me a little bit of a concern. Going back to Tim Abbott's statement there about this time in lockdown, just so everybody is on the same page and we all understand, there is nothing being said there on any parity level between whether the fact that you did work or did not work during lockdown, because if you take the lockdown scenario away, you know, what would be the difference between a medium who worked in what were normal times of the time only once a year and a medium who worked every week of that year? So there is no disparity there. Everybody has done exactly what they needed to do during that time.
Yeah, for them, yeah.
All right. So wonderful. Lovely Phil Shaw said something here. I have never come across this, but I love it. And he's
it did, yes, yeah. There did used to be they used to also sometimes go around, have two mediums, where there would be an evidential medium, and there would be a gentleman or a lady that would do philosophy, and often the philosophy would be done in trance. And it was a bit like, I don't know whether it got to a stage where the churches wouldn't pay for two mediums to turn up, so it was cheaper to have one. I don't know. But yeah, they would have the two. I have heard that. I've never experienced it, but I have heard this of the past. Yeah.
The first service we did back at Newton Abbot when we reopened in April, I did it with the vice president, Arisha, and I did the philosophy in trance and she did the mediumship. And it did actually, it worked very, very well. It did work well. I hope the audience found it interesting. Well, they came back the next week, so I suppose they did. But yeah, it did work well, because then you've got that aspect, you know, you've got a double aspect really, and you know, and it's important that we get a message over however way we can get it over in a way that it can be accepted. And some people would have really enjoyed the trance, but some people would have preferred the mediumship. And you know what? That's fine. It doesn't matter really. As long as we're sort of meeting their needs on some level.
Like I say, I must admit there was one church that was, I have to say, it was an independent church that asked me to do the philosophy in trance, and then I did the evidential after it. So I did both. So, but of course, again, I know there are restrictions in some organisations about that sort of thing. So,
yeah, that is sad. But I'm saying I never come across it. Last Wednesday, married couple, the gentleman did the address and the philosophy, and at the end he had to pull himself back because he was going into full trance, and he didn't wish to at that time. But what he was talking about were trance writings that he had received through his guide. And then the wife did the part of the evidential mediumship. So yeah, I think it's absolutely, I love it. So guess what, you're going to see at Paul very soon, everybody. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I do. I think that is really amazing. And again, with all these esoteric fields, some people will like it and some people will not.
Yeah.
However, if we can't, we have a thing, don't we, within our movement, that we tend to concentrate and focus and give all our energy sometimes to the negative statements, the negative comments. And I know, talking from my experience as in now running a church and previous incarnations of people running the same church, a prime example, we had an evening of one of the name mediums, sell out, 145 people in the church, every ticket gone, people wanted more tickets, couldn't do it, brilliant bouncy evening, 3 people didn't like it, and that was the topic of conversation afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm sat there thinking, hang on, 142 people loved it. Why are we debating because these 3 people didn't like it? I'm not saying we should disregard it, but I was saying, again, I love all
but
this.
It's what we do. Yeah, it's what we do. Funny enough, myself and Tim, we did a combined talk on the psychology of mediumship, where we do exactly that within our mediumship. We would go and do a demonstration. We might get one thing wrong, but there's a likelihood when we're going driving back, that's the bit that's going around our head. Yeah. And I think that's the time we do that, not only within mediumship, we do that in other aspects of life. For some apparent reason, we focus on that, not on the good things. I did that well, or that went well. It seems to be a strange aspect of our human brain, really.
Yeah. I always say to the upcoming mediums that all we can do is we can prepare the best way we possibly can for every situation, and as long as we can finish each reading or each demonstration and we can say I've honestly tried my best in that situation, when we do our review afterwards, then I find that our best is always good enough. But as you quite rightly say, there is always one that will be critical over something, and you know what, we put ourselves up really to be shot at times, and sometimes you have to take that criticism on the chin and learn from it or move on from it, really.
I know many years ago when I did sit in a church committee, I know that it's funny because there was a lady who was quite critical of him, who was part of the committee, who was critical of a medium that turned up. And the reason she was critical is because she didn't get a message. The following year when he turned up, when she got the message, he was the best thing since sliced bread, But there you go. We can't hear you, Laurie. You've gone silent on us. Some people like that,
Because he's driven down. He's driven down to Brixton to get one of Jan's cakes.
That's right, yeah.
Raspberry muffin are going to have a treat at the moment. 2 things very evident tonight. Absolutely wonderful. These Lyceum-based nights is always such a brilliant energy that comes through. It's always very passionate, and that comes over extremely well on the online experience. The other thing is, ladies and gentlemen, guess who the 3 single mediums are in the room tonight? The ones who've been on here all night talking. Because it's Saturday night, the pubs are open, we got nothing better to do.
What was that question about earlier about having a life?
Absolutely brilliant. You know what? And I love the conception for tonight was eluding me, as you verify, gents. I didn't contact you till like Wednesday or Thursday. I knew there was something there, and I couldn't quite get to grips with it. And then suddenly it just fell into place, and you 2 appeared, and I was just like, yeah, that's it. That's what it needs to be. And people have stayed online throughout the 2 hours. Some have dipped in, some have come in late, some have gone.
They've been asleep, mine, but they stayed on.
I know, yeah. We probably put a few into a coma.
They've been in trance, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are peeking,
But we've had, again, truly international and our peers in the room. And I love that. I do absolutely love that when we have other working mediums of however our regard of their standard is immaterial. but joining in with the discussion and really getting into it. So, yeah, what a good night. So, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Next week.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us.
It's all right. No, I haven't got back to you yet. Just wait.
No.
Calm. No, so this is why you're single. You've got no social manners. Behave.
Is that obvious? Oh.
Blatantly. We've
Hey,
had 2 hours of
I
it.
should be stood on Brixham Harbour in a minute. I'll tell you that now. I'm heading down there.
Oh, yeah, right.
On the way, standing down there. Who says I don't have a life?
Following the aroma of roasting raspberries.
Ricky makes good money down there on a Saturday
Yeah.
night. What are you on about?
Well, I did, but they keep asking for refunds.
Right, before we... it's all right, we're past 9 o'clock, we can get away with it now. Next Saturday, we have Leonard Tatt giving us a talk. I'm looking forward to him. He's a columnist with the Psychic News, and he took one of our Zoom services, and a really very, very nice gentleman, which will make a nice change from tonight's.
I was going to say something normal then, really.
So that's on 7 o'clock next Saturday, the 29th. The following Saturday, we have something slightly different. So next Saturday will be another Spiritualism Lyceum night. The following Saturday will be our spiritual night. And again, do you know what? I don't run my life anymore. Just things happen and I go, yeah, okay. We have got Andy, a gentleman on from an organisation called the Veterans Hub, which is a very worthy charity down in Weymouth. They support veterans of all ages, races, genders. They do an absolutely exemplary and amazing job there in supporting all aspects of their lives, including holistic treatments. So it's going to be great to talk to Andy that night. And the only evening that we could organise is the eve of the commemoration of the D-Day landings. So he's with us on Saturday the 5th. So yeah, that's just when I realised the date, I thought that's great. That just so blends in, and I love these evenings. They've been a huge support. Everybody out there has been so very, very kind in saying how much they've enjoyed these nights. I have benefited not only in my change, my understandings of life in general, but actually for my own mental welfare, because without these evenings, I think I would be a very different person yet again to what I am. I often say, if it wasn't for these evenings, I'll be on the church roof throwing tiles at people by now, because that's probably where I would be. So, yeah. Gents, brilliant. Jan, stop tormenting us with the cooking. Thank you. So what? I think Jan and Arisha should have a bake-off.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think they should.
Does she deliver?
Well, I tell you what, Arisha never brings any of it with her. So.
So she could have just been Googling all these cakes and just posting it on a time frame. Is that what you're saying, Ricky?
Yeah.
You need to add that, Ricky. You need to add that to the church list of rules.
Yeah.
Well, it's all right, Andy. If she sits in one of his circles, it'll be that, you know. If you want to sit in a circle.
Bread rolls are like rock cakes, so we don't go there.
Oh, brave. So the week after, we will be having the commemoration service for Ricky Whitemore.
I've left you my Doctor Who videos.
Yeah, she heard you.
Oh dear, stop me putting it.
So thank you very much for the invitation to come and work at your church, Ricky. I'll decline. I'm not going to get involved in a flan fight. Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You do realise that after tonight, Paul Church is sat here in a total state of disarray, and it's going to remain so all night now, because there is no way I am getting the Hoover out and going in and out. It has to wait till the morning. Brilliant night. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your company, your humour, your knowledge. The levity has just been great in the room tonight. Thank you, everybody who's been watching us and joining in and partaking of tonight. God bless you all. And we look forward to seeing you all again soon. So from Paul, good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.